What's going on, everybody? You're watching The Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Brand new show coming to Hulu. 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Nikesh Patel is going to be in it. How are you, man?
How you doing? I'm good.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Good to have you back in New York as well.
Yeah, it's only my I think third time here. So I feel like every time I visit, there's a sort of just a wave of kind of processing what makes this city tick.
And especially for you, you go London to LA to New York. You see the full spectrum there. Of the big cities.
Yeah, to an extent, they've got all got their similarities and differences. New York in the heat is quite an experience as well. That's
you came at quite a time.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I'm loving it, but at the same time, yeah, it takes a little getting used to.
Definitely. So this is the big week for the show.
Here we are. Yeah.
So why don't you just tell me how this all came together? And because you've done a bunch of different things in the past. What was this experience like for you?
So, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Probably best place to start is how I kind of first became aware of it.
Yeah, sure.
It was an email in my inbox from my agent saying 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Hulu, and I thought, okay, that's interesting because obviously the film is a beloved classic back home, and I sort of thought, well, it's already an eye-catching name to do something with. What is it? And then I, clicked and read more, and it was Hulu. It was 10 hours of television, and probably most excitingly, it was Mindy Kaling kind of shepherding this reimagining. I think is probably the best way to describe it. It's not a remake per se, but yeah, in a way, it was the vision was to sort of use the rom-com format and the time structure of those those 5 key events and explore a whole new group of characters. And what was particularly exciting for me was it was like the original, set in London with a whole new
crew.
Whole new group. So yeah, I got to play in my city for 6 months, which is great.
Not a bad deal, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how it all just starts with an email like that. It's just your group.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, and that then turns into an audition, which hopefully then turns into another audition, which then suddenly you're screen testing in LA, which sounds glamorous, but it's just terrifying.
No, yeah. There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on there. There's jet lag that you're dealing with. Way too much air conditioning is what I remember from my screen testing. Yeah, big time. And it was hot in LA, and I remember we were just in these, the waiting rooms were so cold, my nose was running. Wow. And I had to sort of run outside into the LA sun like a lizard and just warm up. But yeah, thankfully it all worked out, and I got to work on this with this wonderful cast as well. It's a real ensemble show, and I think again that's sort of similar to the DNA of the film. And there's lots of Easter eggs and references to Richard Curtis movies for people who know them. But what excites me as well is that it's that it's going to pull in an audience that maybe didn't watch the film. I didn't watch the film until I got this job.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen the film, to be honest. No.
Oh, there you go.
And so this is my first experience with it.
Cool.
And now I want to go see the film because now I have this story here.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the film was, I think, 94 when it came out. And I don't know why I didn't see it. It wasn't like an active thing to
avoid it.
No, not at all. But I was really aware of its importance, particularly as a Brit. I don't think I fully appreciated how popular it was on this side of the pond, actually.
Interesting.
People go nuts for
people love British stuff here.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what's exciting for me as well, is it's kind of particularly playing this role, because it really struck me that there was something kind of quietly, I don't know, groundbreaking about, centering the story on, 2 brown people.
Yeah, no question.
Who normally don't get to be centered in that way. But also, as someone who is a born and raised Brit Londoner, this felt like a love letter to my city in a way that hadn't always been depicted. I mean, in rom-coms, but generally on TV, it's a kind of celebration of different cultures and people who look different, but it also celebrates their. I think at a time where we're being encouraged to really examine what makes us different and certain people, for their own gain, want to drive wedges between us.
Yeah.
This is kind of a celebration of the opposite of that, which is, you know, when it comes to love, we all want it, and
yep.
B, it turns all of us into idiots if we're not careful.
And it's super complicated.
Right, exactly. And it was really nice to bring myself to a role where it wasn't predicated on my otherness,
mm-hmm.
and actually I had a lot of. There's obviously differences between me and this guy, but there was a lot of common ground
sure.
as well, which is. It feels weird to sort of pick that out as something that was enticing when, you know, the point of being an actor is you're meant to transform. But actually there was something quite transformative about being myself.
Totally, yeah,
sense.
and you could actually just focus on the craft.
Right.
And you're not defined by your otherness, because I'm sure you've been defined by your otherness not only in life, but just throughout your career as well.
Well, I think less so in my life, and more so in my career, actually. It was sort of eye-opening to me, and it's taken a little while to process, if I'm honest, because, you know, you spend the first, particularly in this game where it's so competitive and it's so tough, and, you know, so much about being in the right place and all the rest of it, being grateful just to get work.
Right, just to have a seat at the table. That's
right.
where you start with it.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But it's only after a while that, you know, that you start to realise, and actually it took friends that were outside of the business pointing it out to me, going, oh, a lot of the stuff that you're going up for, you have to be, you know, a South Asian guy,
right.
Specifically, mm-hmm. In a way that when that was pointed out to me, you then suddenly become aware when you're going up for scripts, and maybe it becomes easier once you've got a few jobs under your belt,
sure.
And you are in a bit of more of a position to judge stuff, but you really become aware, because first and foremost, as an actor, you want to play a three-dimensional person. Mm-hmm. You want to play someone that you can embody, that has, you know, hopes and dreams and flaws.
Totally.
A lot of the time, you spot characters that are packaged in something where you're told, oh, this is a great opportunity to work with this director or this production company or these actors.
Right.
But then the character that you're given to play feels like a sort of thinly assembled collection of cliches,
yeah, yeah.
and there's no human being I know that talks like this, or, you know, so playing this character, yes, his culture and his family background are something that informs his day-to-day life and his actions, but it was really pleasing, particularly playing a British Muslim.
Yeah,
it was really important to celebrate the fact that this isn't a guy who is in any way perceived as a threat. Quite often, I'm aware of going up for stuff where, even if it's not explicit, mm-hmm. there's a certain kind of
subliminal tone to it.
Yeah, subliminal tone, and, you know, without wanting to get too heavy, those stories have an impact.
Yeah.
You know, we see it in the news, we see it in how it helps form people's opinions, and so I'm more and more aware of my role, and I guess my responsibility and my desire to not play into that. And there's a really great initiative that got started that's sort of similar to the Bechdel test. Mm-hmm. Called the Riz test, named after Riz Ahmed, and the people that set it up basically set these criteria for if something is putting forward a limited or stereotypical portrayal of Muslims. And it's great. One thing that is happening more and more is I feel like that people have a giving voice to those concerns, mm-hmm. And it's possible to then, you know, step back and look at what's coming your way, and when something like this comes along, you kind of, in a quiet way, I think, which maybe threatens to get lost because it's a rom-com and it's a celebration of this.
But there's so much more here.
Yeah, but that was one of the things that I was really proud of making it.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure you desperately wanted it given everything you just said there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because shows like this, even where the industry's at, like, these aren't getting made every single day. And
not at all.
For who Mindy Kaling is, I'm sure she went through a lot of hoops just to get this show made for 10 episodes on Hulu. It's not an easy thing still.
Well, you know, I've spent a lot of time already talking about rom-coms and you know things. There some that have come out recently that have gone against this, but generally they tend to be very white. You know, and
no question.
It tends to be a genre for a lot of people, I think, where you watch it and you go on a journey with those characters, but you're not necessarily going to see yourself represented back. So what was exciting for me with this cast telling this story is that, you know, representation isn't about excluding anyone or taking jobs. You know, that to me is ridiculous. It's about, you know, opening, expanding the horizons of what storytelling can do and who it can reach. And, you know, when it comes to like as basic a drive as like being loved, I think that's a pretty
it's a pretty universal thing. Yeah, no question. And watching the first 2 episodes, this felt like real life.
Oh, good.
Your character is going through an identity crisis.
Right.
You're going through the most important moment of your life, and then a new woman comes into your life, and your friends are going through stuff, and people are going to connect with that. And I think that should be the focus, because a lot of people are writing about, well, it's, you know, we had this version in the 90s, and we're looking back on it, but the real story is like the crap that people go through, the pursuit for love, and also just trying to find yourself. So what was it like breaking all those things down?
Well, yeah, that's great, because my hope is you can only play what's specifically in front of you, and actually, it really helps with this show that it is so specific. You know, this felt like a relatable person, and I could have been a version of Cash.
Sure.
I was, you know, at around 15, 16, that strange age where at school you're suddenly expected to map out what you're meant to do with the rest of your life.
And you're like, wait a minute, I'm just
like,
I'm going through puberty?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Can we just hold up a second?
Just my face looks like a pizza and I can't talk to girls. What am I doing? But yeah, suddenly, you know, you're being encouraged to think about, okay, maybe like university applications or what you want to study, all that kind of thing. And I had no idea. I didn't really at that age have I had passions, but I didn't think that they were passions that I could
turn into a career.
Turn into a career, exactly. So at that age, at that wise old age, I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to be an investment banker. I was good academically. I thought I'll just knuckle down, I'll study, I'll get a good job, my parents will be happy.
Right, make some good money.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, be secure.
And you know, I can live my life outside of that.
Right.
Until I started studying what you need to study for investment banking, found it incredibly dull, and then realized, I don't know if it's always different for everyone, isn't it? But I don't know if I can do this to myself. So yeah, I guess similar. Cash in some ways is on a similar road, except his epiphany moments come, or he's been sitting on it for quite a long time. Yeah, so it comes much later. So that was definitely relatable. And on the one hand, I find myself thinking, well, you know, I had my, you know, I had my stuff together, like more than Cash did in some ways. But at the same time, like the bravery it takes, if you are in that deep,
into at that moment, which people will see.
So yeah, I hope there's a sort of relatability to that, even if it's the relatability, but you're also going, God, you're an idiot.
It's a combination.
Because he kind of is.
Yeah, no question. You had some self-awareness then at a young age, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess so. I think a lot of it was luck. I think a lot of it was having supportive, like, friends, and also my family. You know, I think there's a very common thing, particularly if you're from a South Asian background, of you know, you study something vocational, you get a good job.
Right.
That's education is really important for that.
And thus your parents will be proud of you. As
exactly.
A result. Yeah.
My parents were pharmacists. They are pharmacists, I should say. And their one bit of careers advice to me was, don't be a pharmacist. So I like to think I listened.
For you.
Yeah. But also, yeah, I think it's something about my experience which I'm trying to take forward now, particularly with, you know, we're trying to help and support and mentor the next generation. It's just about opportunity.
Totally.
You know? And that's why, again, why representation is so important, is that if you haven't seen, the hope is if you haven't seen yourself on screen. I mean, I think it happens less now, but I grew up at a time where, you know, I'd be up playing computer games in my room, and then my mum and my dad would shout, Nikesh, come downstairs. I'd be like, what is it? You come downstairs and on TV, and they would call you downstairs because there was a brown person on TV, and that was
a huge deal.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
You know.
So who was on TV that you're running down to see?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I can't remember that, but I do remember. I remember thinking at that age, it was really exciting to see, but they tended to be like kind of small supporting parts. One thing that I don't know if you guys have it here, but one thing that was really kind of an institution growing up was this comedy sketch show called Goodness Gracious Me.
Yeah, I don't think we have it here.
Yeah, so that was really, that kind of brought the family together around the TV, because it sort of centered the British Asian experience and used comedy and kind of skewered a lot of stereotypes and tropes that I think people put on the Asian community, and also meant that there was that very British thing of being able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, that's an important thing.
Yeah, which you know, I think is as different as this is from the film. I think is also, particularly playing a Brit. And there's a few. There's what we got. We got 3 Americans and we got 4 Brits. But there's something very British about being able to take the piss out of yourself, which I really value. Yeah, so there were moments growing up where you'd see people that looked like you being represented, but there were few and far between.
Yeah.
Whereas it's exciting now. You know, there's a generation on the come up
that they're growing up with all these faces.
Yeah,
here.
and you know, we've got stuff like Crazy Rich Asians, Black Panther, doing
unbelievable
huge numbers at the box office, and kind of giving a lie to this idea that, you know, stories that center on those experiences and those people don't sell. There is clearly like an oxygen-starved audience out
people
there.
Dying for it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's as much as I sort of feel like sometimes, you know, when you're on the inside and you're looking at auditions and trying to figure out what your next move, it can feel a bit like you're at the coalface. There's some exciting stuff happening.
Definitely. So have you sensed that life will shift for you in such a way when people do see this? Because it's a bigger audience. I mean, obviously you've had movies, you've had shows all over, but like being on Hulu for this is like, this has to be like a huge thing for you.
Well, yes. It's a short answer. It's not really something I've thought about too much, to be honest. I think, you know, it's not too long ago that we finished filming.
Right.
And you know, that's such an immersive experience, and I think it's going to be interesting. It's been nice chatting to people that have, you know, caught previews and stuff, and hearing what their experience of the show is, and ultimately I think, as well, this is a show. It's my little plug for your audience now. This is a show that doesn't require you to sort of rip your guts out every night.
Yep.
And I think there is an important space for that in what we watch. There's some amazing stuff out there, but given that, you know, the world is in a
we can suspend reality a little bit. It's a nice, easy watch. Like, that's the best thing about it.
And you know, and it tackles some, I think, some, as you said earlier, some really sort of prevalent questions about, especially that period when you hit your 30s of just trying to figure out life.
Right.
Which I think will resonate with you whether you're at that age or maybe you'll look back on fondly if you've got over that hurt and you think, thank God my life's not that much of a mess anymore.
Yeah, no question. So when you think about Mindy Kaling as a storyteller, what are some of the lessons you learned from her? What was it like just kind of seeing her do her thing with the show?
She's just an inspiration because she's triple threat. She's a writer, she's a brilliant performer, and she produces as well. So I think I wouldn't be here without her at the helm of this project. And I think what I really took away was she's got such a work ethic. Her film opened while we were shooting this,
that's right.
And then, you know, the Netflix series that she's working on got announced. We caught up briefly last week, and she's busy like giving script notes on that.
Yeah.
But also as a collaborator, you know, there was something Mindy talked about this as well, that she wanted to move out of her comfort zone with this show because it's not a 30-minute comedy. It's something, you know, it's comedy and drama.
Right. It's not The Office. It's not The Mini Project.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's something that people remember fondly when they think of those Richard Curtis rom-coms, is that it does both.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, sometimes the best way to make someone cry is to make them laugh just before, and vice versa.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the writers' room that was assembled for this project was again was a whole range of experiences, some Americans, some Brits, people of colour, women of colour, and some of them were straight comedy writers, some of them were drama writers. So I think what that shared experience did was allow for something, dare I say it, richer in terms of a viewing experience. And also for us, as performers, we were constantly, you know, we knew we were in the presence of brilliant gag writers, and especially when Mindy was on the ground for the first month or so filming, sometimes very discreetly, she'd watch a scene and then she'd just come over and go, "How about this for a line?" And you're like, Mindy Kaling's writing the gags. That's a pinch me moment.
This is dope. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Super dope. So. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. So when people check this out, what's the one big takeaway you want them to have? Whether it's about love, whether it's about friendship, London, what's the big thought?
I want them to feel good. I think that's important. And yeah, I think it's a celebration of a lot of things. I think it's a celebration of the fact that we have. There's more that connects us than drives us apart, and also, you know, I think the reason people love watching romantic comedies is that you're rooting for people, and that's my hope when people watch this, that there's a lot of great characters, many of whom aren't on this poster, by the way, because, you know, we've got great supporting characters coming in as the episodes pick up as well. So. Yeah, I hope people really kind of enjoy that and feel inspired by it and want to come to London.
Yeah, I'm in on all those things. I went to London when I was younger. Gotta come back now.
Where'd you go? Can you remember?
I gotta think. My aunt used to live in that area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in middle school, did the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But I want to take my fiance back. She hasn't been, so it's on the list.
Yeah, good.
Definitely. Nikesh, thanks so much, man.
Really nice to meet you.
4 Weddings and a Funeral, Wednesday on Hulu. Check it out. That's Nikesh. I'm DJ. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.